I've gotten to test a number of robot vacuum mop combinations over the years, from Roborock, several models from Deebot, and this newer brand, Narwal, just released this flagship model, the Freo X Ultra. And I have to say, after trying multiple brands and models, this Narwal is the first time I feel like it wants the floors clean as much as I do. So we'll get to the dock and all the features there and in the app, but first let's talk about this robot. It is a powerful vacuuming and mopping machine that also use detergent from the dock to make sure your floors are extra clean. There's a lot of fancy numbers like 8200 PA suction power. It has the dual mops. It also has LiDAR 4.0 and tri-laser navigation. You can see on the front of this robot, when it's running around the floor, you really see those lasers working to guide the robot around your house. You also see lasers on the side here. And overall, I found its mapping capability and object avoidance to be excellent. Now, if we turn it over, this is a vacuum mop combination that will mop and vacuum simultaneously, meaning as it's going, if you have carpets or rugs, these mops will lift so it doesn't get your carpet and rugs wet and can do both at the same time. In the app, you can actually program whether you want it to vacuum and mop, or vacuum and then mop, or just one or the other, but I'll show you that in a second. One of the more impressive features, and one that makes this stand out above other robot vacuums, is this zero hair tangling main brush. There is a hair right here from one of the side brushes, but this main brush right here, I've run this multiple times around the house. It's done some significant cleaning, and there is zero hair tangling around this main brush. If you used other robot vacuums in the past, you know that that main brush usually gets hairs tangled around it and just chokes it off, and then it takes a long time to try and get those hairs out and cut them off even. I've not seen any hairs around this, and I've used it for several weeks. It also has matrix pattern cleaning, so while it's avoiding obstacles, it'll just make sure it covers every part of your floor. And when I was testing it in my house, I found that it was very thorough, being very methodical in going up and down rows and columns. And the bottom line is it got the floors really clean. The Narwal also has something called Dirt Sense technology, so if it detects that an area is dirty while it's mopping or vacuuming, it will keep going over that area until it sees it as clean. I noticed this multiple times as it was moving around the house, where if there was a spot that had a couple more particles to vacuum or a place that needed more mopping, it would continue going back, sometimes just going over and over again, basically in circles, making sure it was clean. It also does wild things like adapts to the weather, meaning it will use more water on the mops if it detects sunlight so it doesn't dry out as quickly, and those mops spin at 180 RPMs with a 12N downward pressure. Also, it's not perfectly circle. As you can see, it actually has a conical shape and 50-degree bristles, so it gets closer to the edge, and again, I found it cleans really well. Now, one of the interesting choices that Narwal made is when it comes to dust. A lot of the higher-end vacuums and mops will have a dustbin in the dock, and you'll hear your vacuum loudly empty into that dock once it's done vacuuming. Instead, Narwal actually opted for this kind of dustbin that's built into the robot. And Narwal says you can go up to 7 weeks without having to empty this dustbin. While it's vacuuming, you can see it has this filter, so while the dust goes in, you won't have harmful particles coming out, and this is where the dust goes in, air comes out. But what it does, after every time it vacuums, it will actually compress the dust into this reusable container, and this way you get up to those 7 weeks of usage out of this one dustbin. Then you can just empty this in the garbage using this little tab and put it back in the robot and you're good to go. Snaps right back into the robot, and if you don't like the idea of having to empty this dustbin, you can get disposable bags. These also fit right into the robot, should also last a similar amount, 7 weeks, and all the dust will be here, and then you can just throw this out. Two benefits for having the dustbin built into the robot is you don't get that loud vacuum sound from the dock when it's emptying. It's very quiet during normal operation, and it also makes the dock much more compact, which is great for taking up less room in your house. Which, let's talk about the dock for a second. The dock does all the fancy things you would hope. It auto mops the wash, it has auto drying, it also has auto detergent dispensing, and it also has auto station cleaning, where the station will clean itself simultaneously as it washes the mops. If you've had a robot vacuum mop in the past, you know that the station can get pretty nasty over time and you have to stay on top of it. And you'll still have to clean the Narwal station periodically, but the auto station cleaning helps a lot. And this is the auto dust box drying. So that dust box inside the robot, if there was any moisture in there, it's actually dried for 45 minutes to kill any bacteria or smells that might be in that dustbin. Inside the dock, you still have a clean water and dirty water tank. You'll have to refill those or empty them as needed. They're clearly labeled, which I appreciate. I do kind of wish the dirty water tank was the one that had a color on it. Most other models, the dirty water tank is kind of like a dark grayish, but this one, the clean water is purple, and the dirty water is more that off-white. But they both have decent capacity, and refilling the water really depends on how large your home is and what it's cleaning, and how deep it's cleaning, which we'll get to that in a moment. There's also touchscreen controls on the top of the dock for things like returning the robot to home, sending it out to clean, or even the Freo Clean, which is like a deep cleaning. Also in the dock, you have that detergent container, which you can disable detergent usage for mopping in the app. But like I mentioned, the dock itself is extremely compact compared to my other Roborock docks and Ecovacs. It just takes up way less space, and the Narwal really tucks into that dock so it's not sticking out. Overall, it's just a clean looking dock. Sorry, I had to throw a pun in there somewhere. Going into the Narwal app, it's really beautifully designed. It looks great. I can go into the Freo X Ultra model right here, and you can see it has mapped the entire house. On first mapping, it did a great, accurate job. I was able to split the rooms and rename them after it did the initial mapping, and haven't had to do any remapping since. You can also view a 3D map of the house, which is pretty cool. Going into the actual map settings, here's where you can change the color if you want just mono or the color. You can also display things like carpets and furniture or hide those, and you can go into map editing to split and rename the rooms. When you're getting ready to clean, here you can decide whether you want to vacuum and then mop, or just one or the other. And for each of these settings, you can tap the little circle and actually choose even more controls. You can choose how many cycles it will vacuum and mop, the suction power for the vacuum, the mopping humidity, and even coverage precision if you want to get extra clean. There's also something called a Freo mode. It will do this the first time you run the robot vacuum and mop, unless you purposely disable it. Freo mode is great. Things get extremely clean. It does take a long time, and you do have to watch the water tank when it's in Freo mode, because it's going to use a lot more water to get things clean. So you will have to refill it several times depending on the size of your house while it's running. Here in the app, you can see the status of different parts of the robot and even run things like wash and dry the mops or do the dustbin disinfection. If you go into the settings for the dock, here you can disable the use of the detergent if you don't want that, and you can also choose some other settings like drying intensity and the cleaning mode. One of the really cool features are the tasks, where you can schedule things to happen on a regular cycle, but with multiple kids and schedules just being very hectic, what I prefer to do is create these quick tasks. Here you can choose what you want to clean. I can choose multiple rooms and what I want to do in each room. If I want to just vacuum in a room or just mop in a room, I can choose the settings per room. And then I can save this as a quick task. Now it doesn't have to be on a normal schedule. I can just tap this quick task and then it will only do the rooms and cleaning modes that I predefined. One thing you might have to change is if it detects rugs and carpets, here on the map, tap one of those rugs and then go to carpet settings. Depending on what kind of carpet or rug you might have, you might want to adjust how it cleans the carpets. For me, I wanted to power up on carpets and rug. This way that vacuum kicks up and vacuums a little more. You can also choose to move or avoid any carpets or cross it without particularly vacuuming or cleaning, or just ignore them altogether. I leave it on that power up feature. This way it gets more suction over rugs and carpets. You can also choose to set a no-go zone where it just won't even go near that carpet or rug it detected. Finally, if you go over to the History tab, here you can see the previous cleaning cycles that ran, and you can go in and see some details. You can see this past task was about 190 feet for 25 minutes. That was just cleaning the family room here in the house. You can zoom in and see everywhere it went and where it didn't. This is a sofa right here, so obviously it didn't do anything where the sofa is. It has a nice icon of where it knows the dock is located in the room, and you can view even more details about that cleaning cycle. This is the order that it went. It did a self-check, washed the mop, cleaned the family room, washed the mop several times during that cleaning, and then it completed. Finally, if you go to the settings for the app, there's some more settings like whether you want edge cleaning to be smart or always for the mopping, how often you want it to return to the dock to wash the mops while it's in cleaning mode. Under general, you can choose things like stairless mode. If you have a one-story house like I do and you never want it to think it's about to fall off a cliff, you can turn that on, and with that toggled on, it might go to more places it wouldn't have because it thought it was a ledge, and that's good especially if you have maybe some thresholds that are a little higher and you want the robot to go over those. There's also child lock, and you can say whether you have pets. You can get a current status of all the accessories related to the dock and robot, and under third-party app control, while there is no HomeKit support, there is Siri shortcut support, so you can add commands. Let's say you just want a command that you can tell Siri shortcuts, go back to the base station. Well, I can add that. I can record a phrase, and that will actually add that shortcut so I can shout out to my HomePods or use Siri on any of my Apple devices to run that command for the Narwal. You can see here in the Shortcuts app, that shortcut appeared after I created it, and I have that action right there. If you try to search for the Narwal Freo actions, you can't really add those directly here in Shortcuts. So unfortunately, if there's any additional commands you want, you do have to add them manually here in the Narwal app, and then it will create those shortcuts over in the Shortcuts app. But just having Siri shortcuts control, at least you can manipulate some things via voice with your HomePods or your Apple devices. Overall, I've been really happy with this new Narwal Freo X Ultra. It cleans better than my Deebots and Roborocks before it. I like the dustbin situation and how compact the dock is because that dust is in the robot rather than the dock. I also like that built-in detergent option if I really want that mop cleaning to be done well, and I'm still amazed that it just has not had hairs clogged in that main rolling brush. Now when it comes to pricing, you can get it on Amazon right now, and it does come in at $1,400. Now that is comparable with things like the Roborock S8 Ultra and some of the other high-end robot vacuum and mops. But some of those unique features and just quality of life improvements for using a vacuum and mop, this is the one that I prefer using in my house and the one I'll be using long term. It is definitely a luxury to have this high end of a robot vacuum and mop. And yes, there are lots of more inexpensive options out there. After using some of those more inexpensive options, they might still clean okay, but that main brush is probably going to get tangled with hair. Some of the water and dustbin situations might not be as convenient. And overall, I just find this robot keeps itself clean, the dock clean, and cleans the floor really well. If you have any questions about the Narwal, leave comments below this video. I'll also link to some of my other robot vacuum and mop reviews if you'd like to see those. And I'll put a couple videos right up here. YouTube thinks you'll really like this one. And if you're into shortcuts, I think you'll really like this one. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.